I just wanted to say thank you, C-SPAN, for having the CNN anchor on, because over the last 3.5 plus months, we've gotten to see the exposure of how the Fourth Estate has completely been burned down. Brian, do you believe in polls?
I do believe in polls, yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, the last poll that I saw from a reliable source was that in 1970, let's talk about Walter Cronkite for a second, the United States believed that the media was giving them real factual information. A new poll just came out that said it's completely the opposite. So 80% believed in the media in 1970, and now 20% does, so 80% doesn't. So when I look at that, I look at this as very unreliable sources. And you guys always talk about how many times Trump has lied. I've calculated that I think with your chyrons, with, I don't know if there's any journalists left at CNN, but I know that, if I were to estimate about 300 different, distortions or misinformation that we get out of CNN, and you have to watch them in the airport, which is harsh. But if you added all that up to 46 months, it comes out to be 300,000 plus distortions of truth. So my thing is that you guys, this is how low you'll go, is that you went out and you made lies and you defamed a child. And then you had to settle out of court to pay this child for distorting information about this young individual. So I would say, if anything that's happening at CNN and anybody who buys your book, it's really just one of those things that is dividing our nation. And I don't believe in dividing our nation. It hurts our great nation. And so CNN is really the enemy of the truth. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Brian Stelter.
I'm grateful for the call. And I know that you're not the only person that feels this way. There has been a process of radicalization that's happened in this country with media bashing that is absolutely unprecedented. 20, 30 years ago, conservatives talked about media bias, and there were some really valid points to that critique. It is absolutely true that lots of journalists are based in New York and Washington. They're based in big cities. They have liberal leanings. And mainstream newsrooms are built to make sure that bias doesn't seep into the news coverage. And yet sometimes it does. I absolutely acknowledge that.
One about their crayons that they put underneath while people are watching things. Like the other day, they put on fiery but mostly peaceful protest. Yeah, you laugh there, Humpty Dumpty. We all know you're not reliable. You are nothing but a stooge.
We'll let you go there, Donald. He called you Humpty Dumpty.
Humpty Dumpty. Isn't that funny?
Well, tell us about that. And he also asked about the chyrons that are on CNN and elsewhere. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, Hannity started calling me Humpty Dumpty years ago. I don't know where it came from. It's kind of funny. I think the idea is that Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. So I guess he's waiting for me to have a great fall. Or maybe it has something to do with this egg shape on the top of my head. It is notable how the insults used on Fox get used in my Facebook feed, my Twitter feed. It does go to show the power that these stars have to shape public opinion. But I really appreciate the caller's point about the chyrons. These are the graphics on the bottom of the screen. They're known as chyrons or banners. Different TV shows handle these differently. For example, on my program, Reliable Sources, I view every banner before we go on the air, and I edit them and I make changes to them. So I am 100% responsible. If you don't like the banner on my show, it's my fault. But different shows handle these differently. And I think that CNN banner that the caller mentioned that said that there were fiery but mostly peaceful protests, that banner was probably a mistake. I don't know who wrote it, probably a young producer who's trying their best under deadline in a breaking news situation. But I think it's probably, that kind of thing becomes easily criticized and probably not the right banner to put on screen. What I would suggest to our caller is view CNN for a day. Don't view it for 10 seconds. Don't pick on the worst mistake made during the day, because I know I make mistakes on the air. Everybody makes mistakes. Instead, try to view it in totality. Try to view it in context. And by the way, I try to do that for Fox News as well. I think it's unfair to cherry pick the most foolish moments or the most outlandish moments on a television network. Instead, try to look at the totality of it But know that when mistakes happen, there are consequences. There is accountability. In fact, I had a tough conversation with one of my bosses last week because I made a mistake in my nightly newsletter, and I'm better off for having that conversation. I think what we need more of in journalism are those checks and balances.